Hey there, my name is Pravus, and welcome to Airborne Kingdom. This is a new indie city builder with a pretty interesting theme behind it. Instead of constructing a city on the ground, we will be building a great flying city with a very distinctive either Persian or Arabic theme to it. It looks pretty darn cool. The map of this game is, as far as I can tell, pretty huge, and we will be flying all over it, gathering up resources, and also meeting and befriending the civilizations and kingdoms that are still down on the ground in order to bring some grand unity to the world. At least I think that's how the story is supposed to go. I don't know, I've had my eye on this game for a little while. I figured it'd be kind of fun to give it a go. We'll start up a new game today. Now, I have heard simultaneously that the campaign of this game is fairly short, but at the same time it feels pretty long because there's a lot of time flying around. I don't know if that's true. That's just the common criticism that I've heard, but we'll decide for ourselves if that holds any water. Now, there is a story to this game. I guess back in ancient times, there was a great airborne kingdom that united the world and kept everything connected, but for reasons we don't understand, it disappeared, and all of the world fell back into division and disunity. We have now a new flying kingdom, and we're going to try to meet everyone, befriend them, form a great council with, I think it's like 150 inhabitants or something like that, and that is how we are going to win the game. But first, we must build houses and find supplies. So this is our little city right over here. We can kind of just move around and take a good look at it. Looks pretty awesome. You can move your camera around and zoom around and do whatever you want, but the C key always keeps you centered. And honestly, I don't see a lot of reason not to always keep your kingdom in the center of your map, at least to some degree. If we click somewhere off in the distance like this, we'll set up this little balloon over here, and this is how we're going to start moving our city. Off we go. I see some forest down here, and I'm going to want the wood, so that's why I'm looking to build that right there. We do have some tutorials. I'll leave those on for now because they could be helpful, but I'm probably not going to rely on that too much. Now, something we want to do is go ahead and set up a handful of these little paths all around over here because any structure we build in our city is going to need to be connected to some sort of a path. Now, you may have noticed something right over here as I say this. No tilt issues found? Yeah, that's going to be a thing. If you build all of your structures imbalanced, right, on one side of the city, it will gradually start to tilt over, and then it'll be unable to maintain itself, and it'll fall over. So be very wary of that. That's kind of cool. It's a really clever detail that people didn't have to think of, but I'm really glad that they did. We're going to set up a hangar as one of our first little things over here. This is going to take up 10 resource of something called adobe, which is a kind of a clay building material. We'll use that to build this up. The hangar is going to allow us to send some of our people to go and gather up resources, including some of the wood down in these forests down below. So that's going to be important for me. Beyond that, we also want to get some houses. Now, a weird thing in this game is houses only ever house one single person. So you're going to need, let's say, 9 houses at the beginning of the game. But you can build houses in a 2x2 cluster. That is an option for you. So, yeah, we're going to have little 4 houses built up over here right away. Sure, why not? Now, anybody who is not currently occupied in any sort of a job is going to be your guys running around and performing construction projects. So that's why this gets all built up nice and quick. Now they're going to walk over here, and they're going to start working on this hangar, and then we'll be able to assign them to something else. So we'll work on this first, gather up some resources, boom. I'm going to go down here to the forest, and I'm going to assign, let's say, 5, maybe even 6 of our planes in the hangar to go gather up the resources. Now, off they go. They just get dropped right out of the city, and they're going to head down here, gather it, and then they're going to use this ramp to deliver it back to the city. The closer you are to the resource with your city, right, the for less distance they have to travel to deliver resources. So technically you harvest faster if you are actually close to whatever resource you are trying to gather. That said, if you guys are idle and you have really nothing better to do and you're on your way somewhere, I don't really see any reason not to just try to gather up random resources from the ground as you travel. That's an option for you. Now, there are a handful of different resources and metrics you want to keep an eye on. Up here we have satisfied for our happiness for our people. 4 are jubilant, 5 are satisfied. As we meet their housing needs, we'll get that figured out, no problem. We have food, which is obviously getting drained slowly per hour. Water, also a thing. There's an oasis over here, though. We'll be able to gather some more. Lift is a mechanic to do with the weight of your city. If at some point you're at a point where your city is too heavy that the engine can't handle it, you'll either need to find new ways to generate lift, or else you're going to fall out of the sky, which is obviously not good. The more buildings you build, also, the slower you'll travel because drag is a mechanic, which is kind of cool, though you can improve this with various different aerodynamic features like fins or something like that. We also have coal, which is required to keep our engine floating. If we ever run out of coal, we literally fall out of the sky and die. Wood, adobe, iron, glass, and canvas are other resources we will need, wood being the most important early on, then we'll get access to adobe pretty soon. Here are some different resources that are being stored. We'll be able to expand that in favor of some warehouses. You do usually need some sort of a raw resource in order to produce something more refined. For example, clay becomes adobe, right? Iron will become steel. Quartz becomes glass. That idea. There's also something we'll be able to get called relics from the ancient days, and we can barter with different cities in order to get access to more technologies or advance some quests, that kind of thing. Relics are a very, very good thing to get. Now, I'm going to let these people continue gathering up some of the trees over there. In the meantime, let's go ahead and set up another set of houses. We're already out of wood, so that's one of the reasons I know I needed to go for that right away. I just want to go ahead and solve the housing crisis. Now, we don't have to get too worried about our food and our water. I mean, that's obviously something we're going to want. But, I mean, it drains fairly slowly, so it's not like it's a huge risk to me right now. All right, now, if we pay attention to this, by the way, the city is still fairly balanced, but it could definitely start to tilt over at some point, so be wary of that. Another thing I'll go ahead and do we want to keep all the houses on one side? There is something to be said about doing that, only because if you do, you'll be able to build your industry far away from houses, and people do get upset if they are too close to some of that. So we can go ahead and do this. Right now, the tilt is completely manageable, and I only need one more house in order to meet these last needs, so that'll be completely fine. Now, we can research new buildings, and what we need for that is an academy and 5 available workers. An academy will start researching upgrades for the city. I don't think it takes any resources to do that, or at least my experiments with the game so far have not required that, but it does take time, and building multiple academies actually ends up being a pretty good option for you at some point. I love, by the way, just a cinematic of seeing the city fly away, but you can see that the map is, well, it's kind of big. We got ourselves a big boy map over here. Let's go ahead and assign at least a few people over here, gather up some more lumber. I want to get up to 30 as quick as we can, and then get ourselves an academy. Now, there's other resources down here. There's some coal. There's a small settlement over here. If we come nearby, we'll be able to look for some migrants. And these guys are excited to join me right now because we have at least mediocre happiness. The happier your people are, the more likely that people will want to join you, which is great. So I'll take on 3 more. That sounds great. Of course, that does mean that I need to build some more housing, but it also gives me more workers that I can use to continue gathering up stuff, let's say, down here in the forest. Perfect. Now, don't worry too much if you start sending your people to work on resources, but then you get too far away. They'll automatically abandon gathering a resource once you go out of range. Though micromanaging it obviously will make you a little bit more effective if you can do some of that. So in this case, for example, we're now far away enough from the coal that I can afford to just go ahead and send more people to go and get these trees. But that's fine. So in the meantime, let's pull back on this for a second. I don't need to be gathering up any more food. We're completely full on that. Let's go ahead and build up our first academy. And I'll set it up, let's say, up over here, I think. This seems fine. Still leaves us some room for a path. Though notice we're getting a little off kilter here, so we need to be careful. Don't overdo it, or else you're going to fall out of the sky, and nobody wants that. Now we have an academy, so we can go to the research tree. And the first thing they're recommending we research is the adobe kiln. This will take 2 hours. This will take clay and turn it into adobe, which we're going to need to construct some other basic buildings at some point soon. Oh, and something else to keep an eye out for are these little pyramids down over here. This is an ancient ruin. We can send a worker down here. So they'll get in a plane, they'll fly down, and then we'll see how many relics they can bring back. 2 relics were found in the nearby ruin. Okay, I don't think these guys respawn, though forests and stuff do regenerate their resources over time. So don't worry if we have to backtrack someday and eventually find more resources. Hey, look, that's the city that I need to get to. We'll continue gathering up some more resources first, maybe find a good source of water and stuff, but these are the guys that will give me the first round of quests, and we're going to need that. I also need adobe in order to fulfill quests. I know that from experience, so we'll go ahead and start researching something else. Now, there's a lot of different things to research, right? We can improve the town center so we move around faster, and honestly, the faster we move around, the better, because obviously we reach our destination and consume less food and water along the way. That's pretty nice. Also, we can increase storage, we can reduce how much food is consumed or water, or allow houses to stack up to 2 stories, more planes, gather rate, etc. All of this can be nice. Then there's things like resources over here. We can improve the adobe efficiency. Storage has some upgrades. We'll eventually be able to find new blueprints that allows us to research ways to increase our lift or our propulsion, or meet different luxury desire needs, right? Those kinds of things. All pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and, let's say, reduce the amount of water that is consumed by our people. That should be a fine option for me. Let's go ahead and place down that adobe kiln, and I will set it up over here just to kind of balance out some of that weight a little bit. Though note that my speed is going to be going down because we are getting even more drag, so we're going only about half speed right now. Nothing we can do about it at this moment, but someday we'll be able to improve some of that. Let's go ahead and talk to the Kingdom of Rutula, I think is how you're supposed to say something like that. So these guys are going to give us some sort of a quest, right? They seek our assistance. Let's click on this. So in order to make this work, we need to rebuild the Great Conservatory. If we can spend a couple of people to work on a structure, plus use a little bit of adobe, plus some of our wood, we would be able to rebuild this for them. So let me go ahead and unassign at least a couple of workers so we have a couple people idle, right? It doesn't automatically take workers from anywhere else. You always have to make them idle yourself. We'll go ahead and work on this for about an hour or so, and they'll rebuild this. This is going to make one step toward becoming friends. We'll also be able to ask about technologies, and we can spend our relics here. So, for example, if I want to learn how to research a glass smelter, I would spend 2 relics for that. 3 for a vertical rotor, and 3 for a sailor. Now, this is interesting, though, because when I was doing a test game on this, I found a wing, not a vertical rotor. So it seems like there might be at least a little bit of randomization as to what they offer you, though I'm sure some early game options are like just guaranteed to be there all the time. We could also barter for some resources where we say, let's say I want some water, we'll be willing to trade away some clay or some coal or something like that. Ideally, I don't need to worry about that, but if you ever find yourself in a pinch and you're running out of something crucial and there's a town nearby, well then that's an option for you. The conservatory is now complete. Excellent. Now we can move on to the next stage of the quest. Also, a couple of the locals have joined our city. They want us to find the golden trees of Kaldar. All right, well, apparently there's a rumored location on the map. Let's take a quick look at our map right here. It's rumored to be off in this direction. I can confirm that it is out over here somewhere. So if we go in this direction over here, then eventually we find some sort of golden trees that they're looking for. Now, one thing I wish that was in the game is if I could just right-click on the map and automatically plot this out, rather than try to say, well, my city is facing this way, I need to go to the east, it's over here. And it is, but like, I wish I could just do that directly from the map. That'd be way more convenient, in my opinion. Let's travel up just this direction, because one, we need to find some more wood, but also I see another small settlement. No, never mind, that's a ruin. I do need to find more settlements and get more people to join. The more people we have able to gather up resources, generally speaking, the better we're gonna be. Also, I'd love to have a second academy early on, because you just get through a lot of that early tech so much faster. The adobe kiln is no longer useful because we are out of clay. Okay, well, that's one more thing we'll have to find. Oh, we found an eternal forge at the ruins. Okay, we can take alloys to customize our buildings. There are a couple of these kinds of structures somewhere randomly in the map. Some have dyes. In this case, we found alloys. What this does is allow us to go to some of these buildings and just like kind of customize the motif. Walls, floor tiles, what kind of metal we want to use, etc. Suppose I wanted to make this copper to change the way it looked, right? And we could apply this to everything. Cool, we've just changed the way this works. What if we want purple lights or something? Apply to all. There we go. Kind of cool, right? I think so. Okay, we finished our housing block technology, so we use up a bit less water. That's kind of nice. Let's go ahead and consume less food too. Why not? That seems fine. In the meantime, I do see a settlement over in this direction, so while they're gathering up this lumber, let's go ahead and move off this direction and see if we can find a few more people to join. Higher populations really do help. Yeah, you're increasing your food and your water, but if you can travel fast enough between sources, it shouldn't kill you, though I guess I could see myself snowballing out of control and then dying from all the lack of resources. I don't know. It's not impossible, but this game obviously is a fair bit more casual than some of the other city builders you've seen on the channel before. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's still definitely a unique idea. I like it, and it's got its own set of unique challenges. It just shouldn't be that difficult to overcome if you're paying attention. I hope. And then just watch. I'm going to find out that I'm horribly wrong, and I'm going to die a horrible death, probably in a video or two. That could happen. Aha, I have found the Golden Grove, a small grove of brilliant golden trees from the ancient empire. That continues the quest. We must now return it to the Kingdom of Rutula, which we shall go ahead and do post-haste. Let's turn this city around. All right, going off in this direction, and we'll find that city. There it is, way over there. Yes, I know some inhabitants don't have homes. I'm trying to research the ability to build double stories because I don't want to take up all this space, placing down a bunch more homes if I can avoid it. Should be close enough. Let's go ahead and talk to them at the Great Conservatory, and new groves and a spring up nearby. Lots of trees. Take a look at this. We're actually watching them develop the city. Oh, that looks kind of nice. Also, we got a few more people to join. Oh, good. Lots more housing needed. Now we need to construct a skyport, which takes some adobe and some lumber. I happen to have that, so we'll go ahead and accept that, which means now they have their own ability to take to the skies with lots of balloons and planes. All right, so that's looking kind of nice, and even more people are going to probably want to join when we're done with this. While we wait for that to finish, though, we need to work on some new technology, and I need to get myself some more lift, because you can see we've only got 3 lift left, and that is simply not going to cut it. So, I need to go find some more relics and find, basically find some ruins, get some relics, and buy new blueprints so that we will be able to get some lift. There we go. Our workers have completed the skyport, and we have officially gained an ally. All right, so here is the idea of the city and the map, and at the very beginning, like, cinematic of the game, it shows there used to be like a whole bunch of different cities down over here in their respective zones. In this case, we now have the Kingdom of Rutula, or however you say it. I don't know. Looks pretty good. They're also going to supply us with some wood every hour now that they are connected to the sky, so they can deliver this permanently, which is kind of nice. And we have a bunch more workers who have joined the cause. Oh, okay. Also, they tell us of a forgotten myth of the ancients. So now there are 3 distinct wonders atop of a flying platform, each wonder shone with splendor and imbued great knowledge and ability. Okay, so the previous Airborne Kingdom had cool swag, and we probably want to get that someday. So if we can find the pieces of the wonders, I imagine we get some pretty cool stuff? Probably. In the meantime, with my population growing, we are now no longer airborne travelers, but we are in fact the airborne community. Cool, all right, so apparently there's other things to know here. Traditional believers in the light need desires fulfilled. So now that we have grown a little bit larger, people are going to become more demanding. That seems par for the course. In the meantime, I finally do have some more relics, so let's look for technologies. I need the vertical rotors to generate some lift and keep us aloft. Average cost, high fuel requirement, no workers. Okay. So this is going to increase how much coal we are going to be consuming. That's certainly a concern. Sail for more speed could also be nice, and eventually we'll want that glass smelter, but I bet you I can find at least a couple more relics out here somewhere. What we need to worry about then is researching under lift the vertical rotor at some point, which only takes about an hour to research with my 2 academies, and I would actually love to build a 3rd if I can find a way. Now that we have researched the vertical rotor, let's think about where we want to place it. Now, a fun fact about lift is it actually does tilt your entire community, so you kind of want to balance them out. Look for where you're tilting the most right now, and this actually will undo some of that. So if I were to build this, for example, right over here, it does create an unfortunately heavy tilt, but that might still be the way to go. So we'll go ahead and try to build up a vertical rotor. And wow, yeah, that's going to create a pretty darn heavy tilt. Eek, okay. Oh, but something I did not know is the rotor is going to create a bunch of unhappiness. Oh, that is an issue. Can I move it somewhere else? The answer should be yes. Maybe we can place it somewhere kind of in the middle, and that will allow us, I mean, we tilt backwards, yeah, and that's going to create some pretty nasty drag, but at least we're not going to upset people. I'll call that a partial win at least. Let's go ahead and talk to that city and trade for the last technology, make sure that I have that glass smelter. Okay. So now I don't feel like we have to stick around this area anymore. We could afford to travel around at least a fair bit more. The Tapestry Ruin? I don't know what some of this stuff is, but it seems kind of cool. Okay. We can see some various different quests and stuff over here. For example, we can find some wonders, the Tranquil Gardens, the Great Library, the Nomads Orrery? I think that's how you say that. Kind of cool. And here's the tapestry in case you were wondering. Well, I don't know what this big thing is over here in the distance, but this is where I'm going to start working myself at this point. And yeah, we'll go ahead and gather up pretty much any resources along the way that we can manage. But we're traveling really slowly. I want to go ahead and place down some sails at some point. They do kind of have to be placed like toward the edge of your city, unfortunately, which might create some issues. I don't know. If we place it over here, though, this kind of helps even out the city a little bit. I guess I'll go ahead and place one there. We can always move things later if we need to. Remember that that is an option, so you're not completely married to this. But a few extra sails to help speed up the city? Yeah. Seems like a good idea to me. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and end this video here. I plan on making this into a fairly short series, unless you guys are absolutely loving it, in which case I can always be persuaded to go a little bit longer. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. In the meantime, hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.